Good evening. I want to begin by thanking General Silveira for extending this invitation to me this evening to speak to all of you and for inviting me to participate in the National Character and Leadership Symposium. Truly, it's been an honor to be here all day, and I want to thank all of you for your participation and for welcoming me so graciously. I have been reflecting on the conference theme, ethics and respect for human dignity. And that has led me to think about what is it that makes people genuinely feel like their human dignity, their humanity has been respected. A psychologist I admire, the late Dr. Jean Baker Miller, once said, "We all want to feel seen, heard, and understood." Seen, heard, and understood. In other words, we want to be recognized as worthy of acknowledgement and listened to as though our life experience mattered. We want to experience empathy. Why does empathy seem so hard to find in a society as deeply divided as ours seems to be at this moment? More than 50 years ago, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote a book that points us toward the answer to that question. It's called Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, and it was published in 1967. Our society has changed in some important ways since 1967. For one thing, the US population is a lot more diverse. Latinos are the largest population of color, approximately 18%. African Americans represent 13%. Asian Americans are 6%, and the fastest growing part of our population. In 1967, only 1% of babies were classified as multiracial. Today, 10% of US babies are. But some things are unchanged. Many of our schools across America are still segregated, and many of our neighborhoods are still segregated. Young people growing up in racially divided communities are almost as separated from each other's daily lives as they were 50 years ago. They arrive at places like the Air Force Academy and other higher ed institutions with little experience connecting across lines of difference. In his book, Where Do We Go From Here?, Dr. King wrote, "Like life, racial understanding is not something that we find, but something that we must create. What we find when we enter these mortal planes is existence, but existence is the raw material out of which all life must be created. A productive and happy life is not something that you find, it is something that you make. And so the ability of racial groups to work together, to understand each other, will not be found ready-made. It must be created by the fact of contact." The Armed Services, of course, has done a great job of bringing diverse communities together, using 4 key principles of social psychology. The first principle, bringing people together as equals. The second, where they are required to work together cooperatively. Third, toward a common goal. Fourth, with the sanction of authority figures. And certainly we see evidence of that across the nation. But there is something else that is needed for us to feel seen, heard, and understood. We have to create contact that allows for genuine empathy. We have to have that contact to create that empathy across lines of difference. And the development of empathy requires listening to each other's stories, each other's life stories.